change, not just because of me being a musician, but I would notice that I felt more uncomfortable in certain places than others, and there were a few different countries and tours we got offered that we didn't do because the politics there were still so tough, but I'm glad that it doesn't feel that way anymore, and we tend to like to go to countries that are still battling and figuring out their LGBTQ equality issues. We just recently went to Brazil. My girlfriend's actually Brazilian, and I had no idea about the issues that were still happening there and in a huge part of South America, and it made me really sad, actually. She moved away when she was really young from there, when she was still a teenager, and she has such a sad and negative, actually very similar to what they're talking about, felt she had to leave Brazil because of the negativity about being queer, and she was out since she was really young, and so I try to keep that in mind when I go to places, even if they have marriage equality or even if they seem progressive on paper. I try to remember culturally, how different certain parts of the world are. For me, it's been a massive learning experience. I often don't take into consideration, a country like Brazil, how religious it is. And I think that I've tried to, in my own work, my own self-work, but also our work with the band and our foundation, to try to keep that in mind. I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive, and I think that we have to work harder to embrace our LGBTQ friends and allies in the religious parts of the world, because I feel like there's still a lot of struggle, there's still a lot of work to be done there, so we definitely think about it all the time, but when I go to those places, those shows feel even more special now, because when I see the pride flag and I see the signs and queer fans up at the front, I know that they're still going through a lot of the things we were going through decades ago, and so it actually makes touring there even more special for me personally, so.
Yeah, similar, actually going back to an earlier comment that you made, in a way I'm getting a sort of second chance to be a better first experience for queer people, because when we were that place for people to gather when I was 19 or 20 years old, I couldn't really enjoy it, but whether it's, we've had some incredible shows over the last couple of years. Singapore is jumping into my mind right now. India, of course, but mostly because Vivek was there. But in Singapore, we have a large part of our fan base, is not out, is at the shows, almost in secrecy, afraid to be found out. Even to go to our show, it significantly puts them at risk. And I cry so much in those countries and in those cities, because they are so much braver than I remember being. And when I'm there, I'm honestly trying to make it the best show I've ever played, because I think to myself, oh my God, it's the best, it's the most I can do in a lot of cases. So, yeah, I don't know. But we still, like Tegan said, we still love to travel everywhere and go anywhere, because those people, though, even if it's just a couple hundred people, to me, that is the reason why we should be there.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bex, and I actually have a music degree from MacEwan. And I found that learning about music in an institution kind of killed some creativity. And I was wondering what your guys' approach to songwriting is.
Well, that's a great question. I'm curious what you do with your degree that you hate.
What do I do with my degree that I hate?
Well, or that you felt killed your...
Well, it's a jazz program, and I'm, a pop junkie, so, I got really wrapped up in the technicalities, and, the 3-chord pop song is a kind of mediocre, which they're not, but, no one teaches how to write a 3-chord pop song and,
sure,
kick ass at it.
That's so interesting. I still, to this day, all the things we've done, all the records we've made, all that stuff, I still feel insecure about how little I know about music. It's incredible how you can be successful at it and still feel like I walk into a room. We are so privileged. We get to play with such amazing musicians. We fill our band full of incredibly accomplished, all have gone to school for music, and I've gotten to the point where I no longer put myself down in front of them because I don't know anything about the guitar, and I've forgotten all of the classical training I took as a young person. But I still feel bad. We're about to prepare some music and I feel anxiety. I don't know how to do it. And I don't know how it's possible.
But you do.
But I do know, but it's like, I do.
That was Tegan's, that was the inside voice.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be fine. I mean, I'm very confident it's going to be great, but like, but until I go to do it, it's hard. Like, I tried to do it the other day, and I thought, like, I had a moment, it's been a while, I was sitting down I was listening to a piece of music and trying to figure out what I had done, and I felt I mean, I was going to get my period, but I got really emotional. Like, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I know it's just power chords. How come I can't find them? Like, it was just, so I don't know. It's weird because I truly believe that I'm able to write a 3-chord power pop song, and a good one, because I don't know what I'm doing. But then also, I'm deeply, deeply embarrassed and frustrated that I have not learned anything, it seems like, in all the 20 years I've been doing this professionally, and I'm still like, is this the A shape? I don't know why that is, but it's just the way it is.
In songwriting with Tegan and
So I guess the answer,
episode 1.
yeah, so the direct answer to your very simple question that I didn't answer yet is, mostly I just fail through it, and then at some point I'm like, oh my god, that thing is in my head. I always use the same example, which I apologize to anyone who's heard it, but when I wrote I Was a Fool, I was just dinking around like a gaylord on my bed. And
small gaylord.
Small, tiny, insignificant gaylord, and I was just messing around, and then left the house and got a couple blocks away, and in my head, like, I was thinking about something else, and I just out loud hummed, like, I was a fool, and I just turned right around and walked back to the house. I was like, holy shit. Because it just happens, it's magic. It just happens, you can't learn it, it just happens. I mean, you can learn it, obviously, sorry, you can, but like, I couldn't. I can't learn it, you probably can. But when it happens, it's magic. Bruce Springsteen says it's like we're conduits. It just, you never know when it's going to dry up, but something just happens, and then it just comes together, and you remember it, and you just run back to your house, and then you're like, what was the guitar part? Is it A or C?
Masterclass, episode 2. I was going to say, too, I mean, one of the things, I mean, you didn't ask for my advice, but I'm going to give it to you. You know, I find when I'm not feeling inspired to do the thing that I used to love, that just makes space for me to find something else to do that I can love. And I don't when I'm not feeling like writing music or doing something musical, I've discovered that same sort of magical, whatever, that energy that needs to be released, that sort of discharge of whatever it is, emotion, or it's words, or it's music, or it's output. I've found that most of us who know how to do music often can sort of direct that into some other kind of art form, or even like the gym, or whatever, like that energy and that sort of compulsive
Said no
thing.
musician ever. You know, for me, it's like I'm just like writing lyrics and I feel inspired, and when I'm not, I just like go to the gym, and it usually strikes me there.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. Okay, well,
Did you mean the inspiration?
okay, it's a 2-part disc, so let me just take one. I'm not saying that everyone wants to go to the gym, and okay, maybe I don't, but I'm also not saying that but I guess let me be clearer. When I'm not feeling musical, the goal is not to find a way to make myself inspired to be musical again. My goal is just to feel inspired. So if I don't feel like writing music, I don't beat myself up about it. I find another thing to do. Vivek is basically the master of this. She basically is like, I don't feel like writing music, so I write a book, and then
I don't feel like writing a book, so I guess I'll start another band.
yeah, and then I'll just perform, and now I'm a professor.
Oh, I'm a teacher, whatever.
So it's annoying, but that's, you know, don't feel discouraged because she's so good at finding other things to be really good at.
Oh, you know what I do sometimes when I don't know what to do? I just try to rip off one of Sarah's songs.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, so I'll like be like, I start every song with Back in Your Head. But I don't use her chords because I have no idea which ones they are, which is shocking at this point.
It's D minor and F.
Yeah, but I take Back in Your Head, and then I'll sing it over some other chords, and then I'll just start erasing words until it's no longer Back
I'm
in
gonna
Your
try
Head.
that.
It's great, yeah.
I'm so flattered.
You should try that as
Yeah,
well.
you should try that as well. Start with Sarah's songs.
That should have been your answer, really.
What do you, all joking aside, what do you do when you're not feeling, when you're feeling sort of, you know, artistically bankrupt.
I mean, I echo exactly what you're saying. That's why I jump from medium to medium so much, is because if a song's not working, then there's room to explore an idea somewhere else.
It really does. It doesn't have to be stuff that you want to show people, or it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be an income stream. It doesn't have to be anything. It can just be the act of making something. And you know, when Tegan and I were in high school and we started writing songs, it was just pure joy. I mean, it was like...
Do you remember that feeling?
Yes.
At the beginning?
Joy. And
art?
Magical.
What is that?
What is it? And it was so wicked. And, you know, I don't know if I'll ever feel that again about music, but I have discovered throughout my 20s and 30s that I can get that feeling elsewhere, whether it's through
the jam.
Yeah.
Fuck, if it was that easy, oh my god.
I mean, sometimes I feel great when I get going on a run, you know, where you hit the thing.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, the pool's very useful for me for idea generation.
Okay, who, out of the three of you,
Vegan
three of
and
us?
Sara's
Vegan and Sara, who went to the gym today?
Well, it sounds like maybe you need to switch it up. It doesn't sound like you're getting as much inspiration from the gym.
I'm so inspired all the time. Thank you so much for your question. Yeah. Can't wait for you to write back in your head 2.0.
Hello, Sarah and Tegan.
Hi.
My name is Heather.
Hi, Heather.
So nice to have you here. We've touched a little bit, and it's really cool to hear what your experience has been going back to your high school and seeing what GSAs have meant to so many students, whether they go and they feel confident to be part of the GSA, or they see that there's a club that exists on the wall, and even though they may not feel that they're ready for that, they know it exists, so it's very important. And you've lately also touched on political people in your life, maybe past girlfriends or current folks, that it's really mattered to both of you, it seems, to be more political. So again, another thing that you touched on is that our next election is super critical here in Alberta, and especially since you're from Alberta, I'd be very interested to know what your thoughts are coming into this next year, and you know, if there's ways. I know that the next big voting bloc is millennials, so 18 to 30 is now the biggest voting bloc in all of Alberta, all of Canada. So if people are mobilized to see what it means to be involved politically, we actually do have a bigger voice than we ever had. So I'd just be really interested to hear where you're both at with that, or suggestions for people to be involved politically at a young age.
Well, that's awesome. It's Heather?
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather. That was great. I just voted the other day in Vancouver, where I live. The ballot, I mean, I have never wanted a documentary crew filming my life more than the moment when they handed it to me. It was like, no shit, like this big. I don't know why it was so much bigger than in my memory, but I felt so excited to take the biggest ballot I've ever seen back to the... You apparently haven't, I signed on and did my Grammy voting today, and that shit is insane. Yeah. You think it's hard to vote in an election, people? There are like 12 options. Try looking through 1,033 pop songs, and then you look at the next category and it's 798, and then the next one is 542. Okay. You just start picking the first 5. I actually have something. I think that there might be a scandal on our hands. I think probably if you went back and you used machine learning, you would discover that most Grammy winners are alphabetically.
I was just going to say, just me.
So I think, Heather, one of the first things I would say is that what we need to do is keep millennials' attention on elections. And it's hard because our world is very complicated. There's a lot happening. We're doing a lot of other things. We're going to the gym. We're voting for the Grammys. There's tons of shit
confusing.
happening.
It's really confusing.
So I would say that I felt a sense of pride going in doing this. I'd done research. I had my cheat sheet. I knew who the city councillors and why I was voting for them. The parks board, I never even cared. I didn't think much about those things. I think there was a sense of pride in being involved, and I understand why a lot of people don't vote. I talk to them a lot. Obviously, Sarah and I do a lot of talking these days and a lot of activism, and I get it. People feel disenfranchised. None of us feel like anyone gives a shit. Everything that gets told to us feels like clickbait, and we're being used. And especially when we start to talk about marginalized groups, we're just like, I get it, we're frustrated. And I think my number one thing, at least this week, is just we have to work together. And I think we've just become so divided, and I think it's the internet's fault. so we should all go home tonight and unplug it. Who's with me? It sucks. We're frustrated, we're divided, we feel unheard, and we're distracted. And I think that my advice would be to talk to kids, or talk to young people, and talk to this next generation that are about to hit voting age like they need to be talked to. And I think we have to stop talking down to them. We have to start treating them like the adults they're about to become, but we also have to make it accessible, and we have to make it easier, and we have to make it cool and interesting. And I don't know how they're gonna do any of those things, because there was literally nothing about the experience that I just did.
Okay, that's a bit all over the map.
Okay, but just hold on. But I felt pride. I know, but I'm bringing it back. I'm just saying, like, I felt pride that I did the research and I learned about it and I went and did it. And I just think we have to tap into that. It feels good to have your voice heard. And in terms of the election here and what's happening in this country and the one next to it, it's tough. There's this conservative wave that's coming, and I don't care how any of you vote. It doesn't matter to me, because I still care about you, and I'm still glad you're here. And I want you to have good lives. And we might not believe all the same things, and we might not have grown up the same way, but you matter. And I want the world that I live in to be full of people like you. And so I just kind of keep going back to this place where you need to vote what matters to you, but also like what affects your neighbors. Like, think about your community. It's not just you, it's your community, and choose wisely. I'm not gonna advise you to vote for the party I believe in, because I don't know you, but I will say that I voted this time and in the last election when I thought, what is best for my community? And in terms of the GSAs, I want to stress it again. I just think it's so important. We have to continue to create spaces for young people in schools, and we have to continue to say to the parents, Sarah and I had an amazing, amazing set of parents. We did not tell our parents we were gay. It's not something you raise home, because for me it was about sex. Sex. As a lesbian. I would have rather do anything on the earth than talk about sex with my mom. Not just sex, gay sex. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ashamed of myself. I wasn't afraid that my mom wouldn't love me. I was embarrassed. My mom gave Sarah dental dams when she found out she was gay. She brought home information about sex, gay, lesbian sex. It was embarrassing. I'm not saying that my mom shouldn't have given her that. My mom's rad, it was awesome, but I just feel like a GSA is a great place to, the kids at the GSA we just visited, they were talking about sex. They were playing 21 Pilot song on a ukulele and talking about class, but they seemed happy and they had community, and those spaces are important. I got off track, but those are important things you should take away from the talk.
Masterclass, you two in version number 3. Thank you for your question.
Thanks, Heather.
Hello, thank you very much for coming, and it's so exciting to be talking to you. My name is Estefania Cortez Vargas, and I'm actually the very first LGBTQ female ever elected in Alberta. I believe you've met my colleagues. We call ourselves the ML gays, and yes. I specifically left lesbian out of there because in Spanish it's lesbiana.
And the ML gays were awesome, by the way. And so are you.
Yeah, I'm really sorry I wasn't there. But my question to you is, in your elements as both an advocate, but in the space of advocating for policies, I think anyone that, as we encourage more young people to get involved in politics, or we encourage people to just act in their voices, I think another question also presents itself. How do you avoid tokenism? How do you make sure that there's depth to the discussion? And I think that you, more than anyone, easily, as there's not many, queer singers that you can really point at, right? And I think that that is a question that I would love to hear you kind of see how you develop that sense of honor to the work that you do, I guess.
Thank you.
It's Tegan. I mean, the truth is is that it's so natural for us to want to talk to people, obviously, as you've seen here tonight, and as our politics have changed, and as our advocacy has intensified, I never want to feel like, I mean, I think I understand the question that you're asking. Like, I don't want to be the person who just jumps on a trend or jumps on a political issue. This is truly like, I eat, breathe, and sleep the things that I say and that I feel and that I care about. And if I'm talking about something or I'm engaging a group of people who are here to see me and Tegan, I don't want it to ever be seen as fake or false, like that we are just sort of being lumped in with some kind of movement or hashtag or whatever it is. And believe me, we get asked to support 50,000 things. I really care about the queer community specifically. I really care about our communities in general, like Tegan said. As I get older and have lived in the States, I can tell you that it breaks my heart to think that what is happening in the United States could happen here. It's more than breaks my heart, it devastates me. I've watched communities be devastated by the politics. It's not just Trump is an idiot and sounds like an idiot and says stupid things. He is ruining people's lives. He is literally responsible for people